Hey everyone, and welcome back to our series on the Ottoman Sultans. Today we're diving into one of the most bizarre and tragic reigns in the empire's history, that of Ibrahim I, a man forever known as Ibrahim the Mad. His story is a wild ride of trauma, extravagance, and ultimately chaos. So buckle up because this is a tale you won't forget. To understand Ibrahim, you have to understand his past. Imagine spending over 20 years of your life locked away in a gilded cage. That was Ibrahim's reality. He grew up in the infamous cafes, the palace apartments where potential heirs to the throne were confined to prevent them from staging coups. His elder brother, the formidable Murad IV, had executed four of their other brothers. Ibrahim lived in constant terror, convinced that every knock on his door was the executioner coming for him. When Murad died in 1640 and the guards came to tell Ibrahim he was the new sultan, he was so terrified that he barricaded himself inside his rooms. He only believed them when they brought him his brother's dead body. As proof, so, at the age of 25, Ibrahim emerged from this prison, a man deeply scarred by years of isolation and fear. He had no experience in governance, no knowledge of the world outside the palace walls, and severe mental health issues. The early years of his reign were actually managed quite effectively, but not by him. His mother, the powerful Sem Sultan, essentially ran the show. Along with the Grand Vizier Kara Mustafa Pasha, she handled the state's affairs, bringing stability and even securing a significant victory by recapturing the fortress of Azov from the Cossacks. For a while, it seemed like the empire could function despite its traumatized ruler. Ibrahim, for his part, was initially more interested in finally experiencing life. He dedicated himself to producing heirs to secure the dynasty, which had been at risk. However, this period of relative calm was just the eye of the storm. As Ibrahim slowly gained confidence, his behavior grew more and more erratic and extravagant. The man who had lived in a small room for decades now wanted to indulge every whim. And his whims were often incredibly strange and costly. The palace treasury, which had been carefully managed, was now being drained at an alarming rate. Ibrahim developed an obsession with amber, filling entire rooms in the Topkapi Palace with it. He also had a fixation on large women, sending his agents across the empire to find the heaviest women they could. Legend has it his favorite was a woman nicknamed Sugar Cube, whom he showered with gifts and titles. But his most famous obsession was with sable fur. He demanded that the entire palace, from the walls and floors to the furniture, be lined with sable fur. Imagine the cost. He even had his beard and robes adorned with diamonds. This wasn't just luxury. It was a level of opulence that bordered on insanity, and it was bankrupting the state. His personal life was just as chaotic. He was surrounded by a court of jesters, dwarfs, and so-called holy men who fueled his paranoia and eccentricities. One of his favorites was a charlatan named Chinchihoka, who claimed to have magical powers. Ibrahim made this man his chief judge, giving him immense power and wealth, which he used to enrich himself and his allies. The Sultan's decisions became increasingly impulsive and cruel. He would fly into rages, ordering executions on a whim. He once heard a rumor that some women in his harem had been secretly meeting with men. Instead of investigating, he allegedly had his entire harem of nearly 300 women tied in sacks and thrown into the Bosphorus. While some historians debate the exact number, the story illustrates the terrifying nature of his rule. As you can imagine, the people and the government couldn't tolerate this forever. The state was grinding to a halt. The endless spending led to heavy taxes, which caused widespread discontent. But the real breaking point came with the Janissaries, the elite infantry units of the Ottoman army. Ibrahim had always been wary of them, and his erratic behavior alienated them completely. He would lavish rewards on them one day and threaten them the next. The final straw was his decision to execute his own Grand Vizier without cause, a move that sent shockwaves through the political establishment. By 1648, everyone had had enough. The ulama, the religious scholars, the Janissaries, and even his own mother, Sem Sultan, conspired against him. Sem, who had once protected him, realized that her son was a threat to the very existence of the empire. She gave her consent for his deposition. A revolt broke out, led by the Janissaries and supported by the public. They stormed the palace and demanded Ibrahim's abdication. This time, when the guards came for him, his worst fears were realized. He was dragged from the throne and thrown back into the cafes, the very prison that had broken him in the first place. His 7-year-old son, Mehmed IV, was placed on the throne. But the story doesn't end there. Even in his cell, Ibrahim was a source of instability. The leaders of the revolt feared that factions loyal to him might try to restore him to power. After just 10 days of imprisonment, the new government, with the approval of a fatwa from the religious authorities, made a grim decision. On August 18, 1648, the executioners entered Ibrahim's cell. The man who had lived his life in fear of that very moment was strangled. Ibrahim's reign is a tragic chapter in Ottoman history. He was a man utterly unprepared and psychologically unfit to rule, a victim of a cruel system that prized dynastic security over human well-being. His story serves as a powerful reminder of how personal trauma, when combined with absolute power, can lead to absolute disaster. It wasn't just madness. It was a systemic failure that pushed a fragile man and a vast empire to the brink. What do you think? Was Ibrahim truly mad, or was he a product of his terrifying upbringing? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into history, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories from the Ottoman Empire. See you next time.